Hi, welcome. My name is Jessica Sullivan. I'm an exhibit designer and curator here in the Hudson Valley, and I'm here today. I'll be interviewing Annabel Romero for the Artists and Crafters Market at Presser Park on April 27th. Hi, Annabel.
Hi, Jessica.
I'm so excited to talk to you today about your work and what inspires you. And so let's start a little bit about your background. And also, you have a very interesting career. So I find it interesting in terms of, does it complement? Does it contrast? How does that work with your art, your career?
Yeah, so compared to probably what we know as most artists, I don't have a artistic background in education. I mean, I've been doing some studies here and there, but I actually been focusing in science since I was a kid, and that's what I did. I'm originally from Mexico, raised and born, and I did biochemical engineering, molecular biology, everything very specific. Then in 2012, I came to the US and to pursue my PhD in structural biology, which actually led me to then work in pharma, and I even end up working on some of the monoclonal antibodies that you probably heard of for treating of COVID.
I think you said you worked at Regeneron.
I did.
Yeah.
So many of the things that I focus are very science driven, and since that's one of the things that actually science involves a lot, it's a lot of visuals, you see a lot of cells and proteins and plants. That's what drove me to then starting to do something related to explaining to people and doing a little bit of science communication. And that's actually how some of the ideas started for me to get.
Okay, very nice. And you started in botanical illustration, is
I
that right?
did, yes.
Okay.
That one I actually call it's part of watercolor and part of colored pencil, which is some of the most newest mediums I've been using. I started purely on watercolor, but because of the details that botanical painting requires, I decided to then explore new things, in this case, color pencils.
Does this have a name, this piece?
Yes, the name of the piece is called Illuminated Relationships, because it's based on the manuscripts. If you know medieval manuscripts, they used to be called illuminated because they had gold paint, and as you see, I used gold paint at the edge to do that, and it's to inform the relationships that these plants have. And I actually will have at the market a little booklet that shows what's the story of what put this together. And I'm not going to go into details, so you can come and see it at the market and learn about what are the molecular relationships of the plants that we see every day, because we don't think about that.
And this piece, now you have your home country,
yes,
Mexico.
So that one is based also on scientific research, and what it is about is all the plants that are actually native and edible to Mexico. Many of them are very related to pre-Hispanic cultures, Mesoamerican, from Aztecs, that's how people most known, and Mexicas, Olmecas, everybody around.
Do you want to say the name?
Oh, so it's the title of the piece is A Culinary Map of Edible Plants, and I have it both in English and Spanish, because one of the goals was for this to be, as I said, the main goal of my work is to be able to communicate knowledge in a sort of like fun way.
I mean, is this something you got inspired by early on? And then what did you study it in a little more depth on the artistic side of it with anyone local?
Yes, so this started based on, I've been always a fan of plants, and even at some point I had been thought about going into research of plants, but I ended up being going more on the like sort of application of medicine, and that's how I ended up in pharma. But once I started getting more interested, then I actually took some courses with Wendy Hollander. She's actually very well known in the botanical world. She also teaches at the New York Botanical Garden and at her own farm in the Hudson Valley, and that's where I took some of the retreats courses with her that actually really upped my skills that you see in my most recent pieces.
I was just going to ask you, so did you discover anything new there or tried something new? Like, how did you
Yes,
How did it influence
so
you?
before that, as we have discussed in the previous piece, that now I used a mix of watercolor and color pencils. I was not using color pencils at all. Everything was just pure watercolor, and I was a little bit struggling, but she actually taught a few techniques that make it faster, easier, and you get more detail. So that actually I learned it from her.
We have a few pieces here that all depict the Hudson Valley river towns.
Yeah, so to support, which we're going to probably talk about a little bit, nonprofit called Abbott House. I've collaborated with them for a while, since 2020, but I'm going to talk about the project first. This project is called Abbott House Chronicles because they are located in Irvington, which is one of the river towns. And the idea is that they are located in a historical place. But not only them, but there's so much history, and it's very rich along the whole Westchester, to be fair. But we decided to focus just on the river towns along the Hudson Valley, because you have no idea the amount of places that I could be drawing will be never ending. So I selected a few, and because I'm very driven to plants, I was also very driven to gardens. And that's how I end up selecting some of them, which include Untermeyer Gardens, which is located in Yonkers, Kycut at the Rockefeller Estate, which is a beautiful place that I recommend everybody to visit, and Lyndhurst Mansion. Lyndhurst Mansion originally was called the Knoll, and it was actually way smaller. They actually redid it as what we know, and that's already from the 1800s. And in the parts that you see in sepia, you're actually gonna see one that is missing, because that part of the building didn't exist, that it's right here. And the other one, you're actually gonna see in the painting the original construction that was for the Knoll, that it was basically just a smaller house, and then it became Lyndhurst Mansion.
So it sounds like you did a lot of research.
I did. I started this since last summer, and for every piece, I spent reading quite a bit for each of them. So that one is Kycut. This is called the Temple of Love. Actually, Kycut has so many beautiful places and sculptures to look for that it was hard for me to pick a place. But this one, I thought that it was nice to depict a very beautiful corner that also I love the fall, so I wanted to depict that environment. And the spaces in this case, it's a little bit more simple, the story, than in the other ones, where it's just what would have happened if there was no Rockefeller Estate. But in this case, and then you would just see maybe trees, so that's what it was in the past. But
that's this piece right here.
Yes, that piece and this piece here. But the point of this is to sort of point and mention the sort of influence that the Rockefeller family had in arts across Westchester historically.
Are you thinking and exploring any new mediums?
I've been doing, besides color pencils and watercolors, now I've been going into embroidery. Sometimes some of my pieces of the prints that I have for this project of the historical places in the river towns is adding embroidery on top of the paper, which actually gives a lot of textures. That's something new that I'm trying to explore.
Very interesting. We talked a little bit about how you love to have a theme to create a project, and you shared with me one of your first projects was a stamp project, and your 365-day project. So like you'd explain about that.
Yeah, so actually I got started painting because I did miniatures. I wanted to set up for myself. So for the year of 2015, I said if I really want to improve my skills, I'm going to do this every day. So I committed to do a painting for every day of the year for 2015. And I have here some examples. They're actually miniatures. But what you can see, the advantage is that because they're small, you don't have to commit to larger projects like the other ones I show, but you can actually see the improvement in the skill as I was going through this. So that was one of the things I did, and I was very into setting up goals of just getting to do this, since it's not what I do for a living. Sometimes it's hard to find the time, right? And we find so many excuses to not do it. So if you do one little piece at a time every day, you actually feel like you're moving somewhere. like you see progress. And that's when I did this other project that you see here as the United States of America stamp collection of all the flowers of each state. So that's as a print. But if you actually notice, I did this ones in the actual stamp size. So there were miniature paintings. And one of the things that I enjoy about it is that I only had to worry about doing one every day, right? The research, I did it all ahead. It's sort of like straightforward to find it. There's also collections that already exist, and trying to find my own since I like to collect stamps. So I always recommend that if there's like a struggle to see where to start, just start small and do little projects that just force you to do it every day.
Almost sounds a very scientific approach, very disciplined. You put a constraint, or you decided that I have to have them very small, and you worked extremely small. And how did that force you to really focus more, or?
It actually removes all the problems, right? Because in this case, think for example on stamps, you only have to focus on doing the flower, doing it at that size. So when you're doing it, you can actually just focus on doing it rather than thinking, oh, which color, which size, with what is it gonna go? So it actually makes it straight. So a lot of these daily projects, people recommend that you constrain them as much as possible.
Could you tell me a little bit more about your passion to help Abbott House and their mission?
Yes, so Abbott House is actually very important. It's located in Irvington, New York, which is part of Greenburgh, and they do an amazing work helping the community, trying to consolidate a stronger relationship for the kids. They have a foster care program. They also have programs for adults with disabilities. They make sure that everybody feels welcome, safe, and at home, which actually resonated a lot with the values that I want to share. And I've been collaborating with them. So I actually invite you to, that if you do come to the market, and you buy any of the pieces that we talked about it today, all the proceedings, everything that you purchase, the money goes straight to Abbott House to support them, because they do a magnificent labor in Westchester.
It's wonderful. What a wonderful organization. Thank you, Annabel. It was so wonderful to meet you today and discuss your work. Annabel will be at the Artists and Crafters Market at Presser Park on April 27th, along with many other artists. Hope you come and enjoy their work.